Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. I am Joe Peterson. I'm the Vice President of Cloud and Security for Clarify 360 and the Chief Analyst at ClearTech Research. And I'm here today with Jen Waltz, Chief Information Security Officer for Imaginative. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Joe. It's great to see you again. Thank you so much for having me back on the show.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
In case you guys haven't joined, this is ClearTech Loop. We're on the move and in the know. And let me tell you a little bit about Jen before we dig in and start asking her some questions about AI security. Jen has more than 15 years of experience in both IT and security. She's a lawyer, y'all, a lawyer, and has held roles at Equinix, Unisys, and Microsoft. So she's like the triple threat. So, I mean, this should be an interesting conversation. I'm getting ready. Look, she's flexing her muscle now. Um, so, Jen, how can cybersecurity professionals, in your opinion, leverage generative AI to kind of break out of what we see in security all the time, the sort of the traditional tools and tech mindset, and maybe drive some more innovative thinking and execution in their security programs?
Yeah. So, Joe, first and foremost, I love the thought leadership that you have here on Clear Tech Loop. You really bring the heat regarding cybersecurity and AI thought leaders. So, thank you for having me. So, the one thing when I thought about this question is that cybersecurity has long been trapped in this reactive cycle. This new threat emerges, a new tool is purchased to counter it, and then the team becomes overwhelmed by all these alerts. So generative AI or Gen AI is offering this, once in a lifetime opportunity to fundamentally disrupt this cycle by shifting the focus from managing tools to achieving strategic outcomes. And so, I look at this as you have to move beyond alert triage to predictive threat hunting, right? So we've got to move beyond just simply using AI to prioritize, SOC alerts. You can prompt Gen AI to simulate some type of adversarial behavior, like quote, generate a TTP playbook for a ransomware group targeting the manufacturing sector in Q4 2025 based on recent advisories. So what that does, that prompt, it enables proactive threat hunting, moving from reactive defense to more of a predictive posture. And with that, when integrated with this threat intel platforms and MITRE ATT&CK data, Gen AI can help anticipate attacker evolution before it reaches any type of production environments. In addition to that, it also automates the cybersecurity grunt work. This is one of the things that we're seeing with how jobs are changing as a result of generative AI. And so now companies are using generative AI to reduce all the toil and trouble in drafting security policies aligned with frameworks like NIST or ISO, right? And then they're using it to write remediation scripts for common CVEs. And they're generating tailored incident reports for executives and building these user-friendly, contextualized security awareness content. So this is allowing the security teams to really focus on the high-end, complex, high-value activities such as designing a zero trust network architecture or managing cyber insurance negotiations.
I like that. I like the fact that, so I got a couple things out of that conversation that I want to highlight. So you brought in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and that is proactive by nature and not reactive in its nature. And that's great. And the other thing that you talked about, which kind of led my mind that way, was maybe the ability to upskill some of our SOC technicians, right?
Yes.
Instead of having, what I've seen for the folks that are using this, and I'd love to get your thinking, is AI provides a remediation path. So it'll suggest, right? So instead of instead of just, finding an alert and saying, okay, good luck, go fix it.
Yeah.
Not only will it suggest a path forward, but it'll do, depending upon the complexity of the prompt and how it's been utilized, it will come back and it'll prioritize. So it's, I think it's a great way to upskill maybe some of the more junior folks in the SOC. What do you think?
I love that. I mean, so think about it. If I think as people are using generative AI, I'm not quite sure if they think the prompts are going to break it or something, Joe,
Mm.
because you can ask it the most complex things and it will break it down for you like a math tutor. Think about
Oh,
that.
that's a good way to think of it.
Hmm.
Going to school.
Hmm.
Going to
Yeah.
school. Well,
Yeah.
and you brought up something else, and that takes me to the next question. You know, what I'm hearing you talk about also as an underlying theme is balance.
Hmm.
So, how can organizations embed security and privacy controls into AI model development without kind of slowing down innovation? Any thoughts there?
Yeah. So, I love these questions because they basically build on each other, right? So the first question is like, how do you execute? You have to think from tools to outcomes.
Mhm.
You have to stop thinking of AI as just another SOC add-on and use it as a strategic co-pilot. I know people are hearing that word a lot,
Yeah.
co-piloting, that augments human intelligence, right? And enabling this proactive security. So now, you're going to have to embed privacy and security into AI development. So you got to secure AI. And so you have to move fast and break things, right? That's the way we've been taught in IT.
Hmm.
That approach is incongruent with responsible AI. So organizations have to move deliberately and secure things and embed privacy, security, governance into the AI system development lifecycle, which is like AI SDL, to build this secure by design culture, right? And so you have to implement this formal AI governance framework, right? You're going to have to realize that it's going to have to be the five musketeers of security, privacy, legal, compliance, and data science, right? And so that's going to give you this acceptable use policy, an AI risk classification tier. It's going to help you review processes for how you put this model into deployment, and then also reporting and audit, right? And then you have to look at every input into a Gen AI system as a potential threat actor. So imagine, when quantum computing is fully here, it's going to be able to guess passwords and other things. And so you're going to have to look at, how do you scrutinize data for poisoning, bias, PII leakage, right? You're going to have to make sure that you are using reputable sources, and then you still have to fact check. I don't know if people do this right now, but I use at least 4 different AI tools to vet each AI. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
And because you can't rely on just one source
Mm-mm.
as the truth. You have to look for, because people will prompt anything into the tool and then it becomes knowledge, right?
Right.
And they will falsify information to put into that. And you have to realize there are bad actors putting bad data into these AI tools. And so you're going to have to look at how people are using backdoors or embedding logic bombs. And then also, you have to look at like software, standard board of materials and vulnerability scanning and license risk assessment. So you're going to have to put so much due diligence on third-party vendors and partners using, generative AI. And so I hope that answers your question, because, it's so much more. It's like secure prompt engineering. It's coming up with these model drifts and thinking of, how do you create war rooms, right? So you can outthink an adversary, if that makes sense.
It totally does. So, first of all, incongruent is not my new word of the day. It's
Okay.
got more than 7 letters. It's a great word. So, incongruent. But you said something else, and it made me think, maybe AI is not only helping us rethink the way we're doing work, but maybe it's helping us break down silos because we don't have a choice, right? It's forcing these groups. You'd mentioned 3 or 4 or 5 different groups that all need to be involved. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, she's right, because these people all have to talk to each other, whether they want to or not, and agree on what the go forward is going to look like. And the go forward in lots of ways, right? Not only from a framework perspective, but from a governance perspective. What's allowable, what's not, for example. It's going to take everybody getting to the table and thinking together about what's going to work for the organization, which is kind of a cool thing.
Absolutely. I mean, secured by design, it's a business enabler. You have to think about trust and safety. And then when you're shifting, in the AI SDL, you have to look at it as it's accelerating a structured, auditable innovation. And it has to be built into the security and privacy, trust and safety have to be built into the CI/CD pipelines, into all DevSec workflows. And then as you're evaluating partners, you've got to look at the ecosystem. Can this partner secure AI, not only inside the org, but across of their other partners, if that makes sense to you? So
Right.
Perfect, Joe.
Right. I mean, pardon me, and I'll have to have you back because MCP servers are a great example of, a new tool that's come into the security arena that has a chance to be a game changer, right? And is doing all the things that you're talking about, particularly in the supply chain, right? So it's a different way but that'll be a different conversation. Let me ask you the last question. How
Sure.
should the CISO be thinking about AI adoption in terms of not only its use to secure emerging threats, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but from an organizational governance perspective? What do you think?
Oh, so I love this question because the CISO no longer is this superhero defender of the perimeter. You have to become a business strategist, and you have to be thinking in lockstep with the CFO and the chief revenue officer regarding innovation enablement, balance with risk governance. And it means managing several mandates simultaneously. You're going to have to use AI to secure the enterprise, right? So you have to think AI for security in terms of human capability to, reduce MTTD and MTTR to enhance efficiency and reducing burnout, number one. So AI is to, again, lift up those people from doing menial tasks and give them better tasks to do, have them learn into it. Because it's an expensive a proposition when you hire people and you want to keep them engaged and you want to keep them building for you. Then you have to use them and their knowledge combined with AI and machine learning to enable this predictive defense, right? Using telemetry, detecting subtle attack patterns. This is going to help companies and help the company will help the CISO, help these companies shift their posture from reactive to being anticipatory, and then allowing them for, preemptive asset hardening. Then you have to also translate tech to business, right? So again, these executive ready reports that translate technical vulnerabilities into this business risk. This is going to help the CISO communicate crisply, more effectively at the board level to tell them these imperatives. Then the second mission or the mandate is to secure, the organization's use of AI, so securing it. So I see people will have to build and not necessarily buy AI, in my opinion, Joe, and have it hardened in their environment. Because the one thing because you would be opening up yourself to risk to allowing your employees to just go on Chat GPT, right? And put information in there. So do you remember, when before SharePoint got started, there used to just be these knowledge bases that you would go to? So and remember how you built off the knowledge base, how you got to being able to share information like the SharePoint. this is what I see happening, that each company is going to have their own bespoke use of AI hardened down in their environment because, from an acceptable use policy, you're going to have to be able to say what can be used, how you treat PII and source code. You're going to have a list of approved tools that are only for your environment. And I know that might seem limiting, but with all the risks that are out there with mobile devices and everything, again, we're talking zero trust. You have to have risk review processes for not only vendors, but also your employees. And so at the same time, you don't want to block people's creativity and innovation. You want to guide it. You want to be able to offer it safe alternatives and training so that business units can still use these amazing Gen AI tools responsibly.
Yeah, I mean, such a good sort of encapsulation of both sides of that question. So thank you so much for the thoughtful response. And thank you in general for sharing your thinking today, guys. It's been fun. And Jen just made it more funner, if that's a word. I don't know. So we'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Joe.